Well, look at this. You looked at you weren't wrong. You saw a longer video. We haven't done this in a while. It's the down to earth long form show that we haven't done in a few months now, but we're back now. It's myself and Attack Peter, and they're talking about hearings. We're gonna get one in May. Nope, just kidding. Gonna get one in June. July. That's the date. Maybe it's September 1st. So who the hell knows as far as a hearing? Here we go again. I feel like the last time Attack Peter and I were really doing this a lot of times, we were talking about those hearings, last year's hearing, who's going to be on it, what's going to, it looks like it's starting all over again. Burleson was interviewed and he was asked how come more firsthand witnesses aren't stepping up, and he gave his thoughts. Ross Coulthart had a whole big thing on his podcast about this, and there's just so much to talk about. There really is. There's a lot of news. So we're going to get into it today. It's myself, it's Attack Peter, it's Down to Earth. Let's do it. That intro was getting rusty. I haven't played it in quite a long time, but nonetheless, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Down to Earth show with myself and Attack Peter. We're back, buddy.
I don't know how you could ever skip that intro. It's so good.
It's good. It works out, but it's funny because, and I'll give you all the credit in the world. This show would not have happened this week if it wasn't for you. You texted and you're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yes, I haven't talked to Peter in a while, man."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Let's." I think it's been. Well, when did you get? When it had to be a couple, like 2-3 months ago. Last time we did one of these.
Yeah, because I was on my way somewhere, and they were, and I was in the airport. I think. Was that the one? And
no, I was like, right before. I don't know how much you're talking about. What you is what was going on with you, but something was going on with you. So we took,
Oh yeah. I had neck surgery. That's all good. My life's an open book. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
But I had neck surgery, and everything's good.
Okay, good. And that was like what, 3 months ago?
Yeah. I had the surgery in March.
Right. So we haven't done it. And I got people asking. They're asking like, how can we not doing the Down to Earth show anymore too? And it's like, well, 2 reasons. One, I put like 1 video out a day, sometimes 2. That I cover, and then 2, I'm not going to do them by myself, and I got to double check with Peter when he's around. So that's it. That's what we're going to do. Plus, there wasn't a lot of like major news, and it's starting to like pick back up now, I think.
Yeah. It's funny because for those who don't know, I do a lot of streaming on my end for the company I work for, Mondo, where we do a lot of entertainment stuff and collectibles and figures and posters. And it never happens, but recently I started to get people in the comments saying, "When are you going back on Down to Earth? When are you going to go back and talk with Kristian?" I'm like, "Whoa, that's a weird crossover," but
that's funny.
We realize we got to do it.
We got to do it, and it's great though too, because there's a lot of people still out there too that are crushing it, doing a lot of great work, and people have been. It's still, the community's still moving, but nothing has really changed, I don't think, as far as like how we'll have the same conversations when it comes to who's covering this in the mainstream. The answer is nobody, but we will get into this topic of the hearings, or what's going on with the hearings, right? So let's start with that one, because Burleson, have you noticed, by the way, how much Burleson has been talking lately?
Dude, it's almost like they pulled Burchett back and they put Burleson out.
Yeah.
It's so weird if you watch this like it's entertainment, in the sense that if you compare it to entertainment, there are a lot of parallels.
Who's our guy? Who's gonna be the spokesperson right now? Right.
It's like wrestling where there's new storylines. It's insane.
100%. And this is something, and I very well could be wrong. He's just doing so many interviews. Maybe I missed it. But if anybody is watching who interviews this guy, because I want to interview him, and no one has asked this question, and it's driving me crazy. All the people who there's got to be somebody who watches this show that is going to speak to him, and maybe you did it, and just clip it out, and then I'll play it and I'll shut up about it. But if you remember, Burleson was the one guy who said, "Look, I know that they are hiding things. I know that they are discussing things. I know there are things out there that are not being told the truth." He's always been very upfront when he's saying that. But what he always used to say is, "I haven't seen any information to make me think it was alien or NHI or any of those things." He's heard that. He had said that many times. Then there was the one time when they got briefed over a year and a half ago, and he's like, I actually think even more so now that I don't think it's anything alien related, all that. So that's part one. So the question I would then ask him in the follow-up is, okay, since that time, David Grush was working for you. And I don't even know if he still is working for him, but he was. And this is David Grush, who had talked about conversations that he had about alien bodies, all these other things. And has he had enough conversations with Grush that A, his whole worldview has changed on that? And then B, how about the fact that Eric Davis is sitting right in front of him, telling him there's 4 different types of alien species walking around us? And he's even said, he's talked about this, he's talked about the alien stuff. Has his view changed on that? Have you heard anything on that?
I saw video of him in holding the mummified hands.
Right.
You're dead on, because the guy, when he came onto the scene, he very much gave me the very conservative, like, we'll see, okay, I'll listen, but I doubt it, that kind of energy.
Right.
And then fast forward, and he's in Mexico with the
Right.
mummies, and the picture of him holding is like, it's like I feel like he's been privy to some stuff that is either I don't know, man. Either he's being manipulated to think a certain way, or something broke through his force field, and now he's starting to like put pieces together. But he's definitely been more proactive than anybody else at the moment, I think.
Oh, he's definitely proactive. There's no doubt about that. But and you're not wrong. Also, I think he's regurgitating a lot of stuff too sometimes, because he'll say things about like the Tic Tac video. Oh, I've heard that the Tic Tac video is that's just Lockheed Martin stuff. And that's a big conversation everybody's been having. Like even Stephen Greer was talking about how it's Lockheed Martin. And then I don't know if you saw the video I did on Stephen Greer when he was on Jesse Michaels, and he was talking to about the Tic Tac video, and he says, well, David Fravor has now said that he knows that it's Lockheed Martin. And Jesse Michaels is like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, that's what he says now. He's like, he used to say it, but now he says that. And then Jesse Michaels reached out to Fravor. It's like, Fravor's like, no.
I know, it's so weird, dude.
And it's like, but what? That's like a bold-faced lie, right?
I want to be respectful always about this kind of stuff, but I do feel like the longer this goes on, the more people are going to jump into the space of talking about it.
Right.
The more people that jump into the space, the more chances of somebody breaking something and taking the limelight from the people who've been doing it for decades. And Greer's one of those guys. And he definitely, speaking of that interview, if you want to call it an interview, I feel like it was a dissertation at Jesse Michaels' face. It felt like the guy is starting to get fed up, and start saying whatever he thinks he needs to say. I don't know, man. Like, if somebody's gonna crack, it feels like he's on the edge of cracking.
Right. Yeah. It very well could be, but I don't know. Either way.
Yeah.
Either way, there's a lot of discussion in general about he said, all that type of thing. But the hearings are where it kind of goes back to now, right? And so there's so much to jump in with these potential hearings, because Matt Laszlo's still doing all the groundwork for everybody, and finding out, talking to Luna, and Luna says like a bunch of different things. She says we're having one in May, we're having one in July. We don't know we'll dive into that in just a second. But the other day, again, bringing it back to Burleson, he said that they were looking to have firsthand witnesses, people who touched craft, people who touched bodies, people who had contact, and that's what you and I have been always saying. That's what you have to do. But then you get this interview, and watch this.
Is it challenging to get the firsthand witnesses because a lot of them are just nervous about coming forward? I mean, is that your biggest hurdle?
Yes. I mean, it doesn't benefit their life in any way. I mean, if anything, their life gets totally disrupted. I mean, look at David Grush. Like, he lost all of his benefits, all of it, like his pension, his medical benefits. There's a huge sacrifice that these people have to make before they come forward.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's essentially what Lukatsky said when he was talking about the last hearing, right? He's like, there's no incentive and there's no protection. That's the bigger thing. Sometimes I just get so frustrated when I hear some of these interviews. It's like the follow-up could be like, what are you guys doing in order to ensure what is the program to ensure that these people will be protected? Is there funding that is going into it? Is there a way to add more funding? If someone can start a Kickstarter for $1 million on an independent film, you can't start some kind of fund to get these people protected. Like, you could probably raise millions, and there's nothing being done in general to try to protect these people. So why would they want to come forward?
You know, it's funny. I think besides the fact that there's no place to go to speak in a protected way,
Right.
There's, you know, clearly precedent that when an organization says, "Hey, we're the safe place to come and talk," they end up not being. And you know, and like Arrow or whatever it is, and so it's like, why would I even trust?
Yeah.
When an organization comes forward and says, "Oh yeah, you can come talk to us." I mean, what, like, best case scenario, you would go to Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, because
that's what they are doing.
Yeah. That's it, because if everything else feels like a fly trap, you know. And then, you know, I've heard some comments about like, oh, we'll set this up and it'll be a thing, and it'll be a step. But imagine, you know, you're on Capitol Hill, or you're Congress, and you're saying, I want to set up a safe place for this. You in your heart know that you can't promise that, number one. And number two, like, you're probably screaming into the void with, let's get funding for this. And with all the other fires going on, there's just no one's gonna budge on this. Who's gonna put that's why I think it's so important. And you got to hand it to Burleson and Burchett and Ruby, Luna, and because they're at least putting themselves out there repeatedly. Who knows what kind of flack they're taking for it?
Well, but there's a yes and a no to that. The yes is absolutely what kind of flack, whatever it is, but let's also call it what it is. Who really knew what's the most spotlight Burleson, Luna, and Burchett have gotten in their political career?
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so if this is the subject that you know that people are really getting behind you, whatever it might be, let's say that you've started advocating for a new plan to fix homelessness, and that is what everybody knows, that you are, that's what you come up with this, and the community gets behind you. You go full force into that, and that it's not to say that they're not truly into it, but you lead with it, and you can do it nefariously too, which I believe Nancy Mace did.
Right. No, you're right. I'm back in the nihilism camp, and everybody's garbage.
But it's both. I think it's both. I think it's both. I think that you can. I believe that all three of them legit care in this issue. I do. Do I also think that in any political thing that you have to do the thing that is, oh, this is what's working. This is what the people are getting behind us. 100%. But like this is why I don't like. And I mentioned this the other day. This hearing, whenever it does happen, it cannot be run by one particular person in the way that Nancy Mace did it, because she made it a farce with walking down the street, taking selfies, and having that whole freaking alien, thing. And she was like, was playing towards the audience and saying, look, I'm with you guys too. And she probably doesn't give a shit about this topic, right? Because you don't even hear about her anymore.
No, you could imagine like a team of people around her, and she's like, what's hot right now? What should I get behind? What's trending?
100%. But I don't believe that the ones that you mentioned, and also Garcia and the Moskowitz and all that, I don't believe that. I believe that their intentions are true. I just think so know that it's
you don't go to Mexico and hold the tridactyl hand.
You don't hire Grush, and you don't do all that. No, of course not. But they've been talking about this, the hearings. This is what happened last time, right? Every year now, there has been hearings since 2022. There was the one no one really talks about in 2022 that was pretty important. Then there was the major one in 2023 that actually moved the needle, and then there was the farce in 2024. But 2025 seems to be leading up to, and this is what happened last year. The conversations start. Who's going to be? It's like a freaking movie. It's like who's going to be the cast? Who's going to be? When do they start shooting? When is it? It's like the same thing. So people are starting to discuss it more. So I guess on UFO News, Christina Gomez posted this whole thing on Ross Coulthart, and she was talking about the show that Ross Coulthart did, and he dropped shocking new UFO information. But I want to read some of the transcript here. She writes, Congress keeps delaying UFO hearings, may become July. And now Anna Paulina Luna tells reporters we have dates announced soon. I just don't know when. And we also have to find a room. But what if these delays aren't about scheduling? What if they're connected to new revelations? As you can remember, Ross Coulthart just claimed that the famous 2004 Tic Tac incident was an alien technology. Was it? I guess it was Lockheed Martin. But Coulthart says that not all Tic Tacs are ours. Some are genuinely not human. Hear me out. Think about it. For 20 years, our military has been encountering both alien craft and secret human technology, and they can't tell the difference. Maybe Congress's hearing delays aren't about finding a room. Maybe they're about finding out how to brief lawmakers on a phenomenon that is both alien and human. It's much more important than it sounds, and the timing is suspicious. Let's find out what's going on. Okay, so that's pretty much summed up inside of the hearing side of it. What do you make of that? That one of the reasons why it could be being delayed is that it's not about trying to find a room and trying to find those things, but it's more so about, wait a minute, there's new information that we have to get secure here, and it could be this Lockheed Martin stuff. We're going to make more revelations about that as fact. It is alien plus human. What do you make of all that?
I mean, I hope that's the case, you know. I also think the way the news cycle works with everything, if you give enough space between interesting updates or breadcrumbs, people start to fall off, you know. And so I hope that it's a PR thing, like, hey guys, hold on, we got to manage this because there's all this new information coming through, and we want to make sure that everybody's stories line up so no one loses credibility. But there's a part of me that always thinks that the droughts are strategic,
right?
And when they're strategic, it makes it hard for you to cover something. It makes it hard for all the other channels to cover stuff. And then, you know, the challenge is when these droughts are happening is to find the loose threads that were missed when we're getting the constant feed, or go back and review and retrace your steps. But I do think that either way, it could be it could be a good reason for why they're pulling back all of a sudden. But I also think, you know, if you wanted to mess with people, you would let them, you know, drum up all this, you know, excitement around there's a new hearing, and then pull the rug at the last minute. You know what I mean? Because that's how you kill it.
I think that it's more so, to be honest, I think it's more about the room stuff. I still think that they're just not getting taken as serious as everything else. So, yeah, okay, you guys want to do another one of those hearings? Great. It's going to do the same thing it always does. You're not going to have any new information. Nobody's going to really cover it. Do whatever you got to do. Sure. Remember, they're going to give them like a broom closet in 2023. And they finally
that was funny.
Yeah, and they finally had to like fight it out and get something out there. So I think it's a little bit too hopeful to say, well, no, they're really going to drop some really big news.
Exactly.
Here. That's what we thought last year. That's what we thought. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. The last time where you were talking about with Eric Davis coming out and talking about 50 alien species, that happened unofficially.
Right.
That's the stuff you want to happen officially.
Right.
That right there was such like a red flag for me, and not in the sense that I didn't believe Eric Davis or whatever.
No, I know what you're saying is the fact that why are they doing it so like off the record, and like not even necessarily off the record, but you know, that not in front of like you. That's who you need. You need the cats. You need Eric Davis. You need people going, hey, there are 4 types of alien species running around the place, and I'm telling everybody under oath this.
If they would have if that was the hearing,
the
same thing. Even Lou with the stupid fake photo.
Yeah.
If that all happened under oath in an official hearing, that would have been much bigger news.
You hope so.
Right.
You hope so. Like that's the thing. Yeah, and I said this the other day. If that type of thing happens under oath, and the top story is cat falls out of tree, and
we're living it right now.
It's like that to me is like, wait a minute. So
we're living it. We're living it right now with the Epstein stuff, not to derail it, but it's the same thing. We're all like, it's like the emperor has no clothes, you know? And so something huge happens, which basically the world is unified for the most part, saying, hey, there's something fishy happening here. Yeah. We want to know which one of the people that we're electing and paying for are involved with this crap. And the response is like, it's not important. Right. Like the most brazen version. Look over there. And so now
it's funny you say that, because no matter, even like, and this is any type of file, but especially when someone says, I don't care what you think, whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump, when he's sitting there, we're still talking about this. Yes, we're still talking about this.
Of course, that was
talking about this. What are you
everybody?
Talking about?
I feel like he did the world a service in that moment, in my opinion, because that energy was so clear to anybody watching. Like, oh, this guy wants us to stop talking about this for a reason,
and that has nothing to do. It doesn't. I don't care who you voted for.
No, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
And you're seeing it because you go, well, wait a minute, hold on. Look, I voted for. Someone's saying I voted for, but wait, but back up. We should want to know what happened. We're still talking about this guy. Yes, and it's the same thing with this.
You work for us, bro. Those people work for us.
But dude, this goes back to that whole thing. What I've talked about. Your example obviously is the grand scale thing happening right now, The drones, which we'll talk about in a little bit, right? The drones are the same damn thing. It's like, oh, look, people are talking about the drones. We know what it is. We know what's happening over there. What do we do? Well, we said we were going to be honest about this. Let's give them a thing right away. All right, guys. This was the FAA doing tests. No more questions. See you later. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then FAA is like, no. And everyone's like, no. And no one asks follow-up questions to this.
We moved on.
That's
what I'm saying. We moved on.
The answer. That was it. No, we're still talking about this now. Why? We gave you an answer, but it was not the right answer.
It gives you, you know what? It gives you personally a lot of credibility because you've been saying since day one to people who say we don't need the mainstream media to cover it. You've been saying you do because of X, Y, and Z. Here's the evidence.
Right.
Because when they stopped covering it, that it stopped.
It just went away.
It went away. You still talk about it. Pavel still talks. Everyone still talks about it, but it is not. It is not in the
again to equate it to like movie news, right?
Right.
People don't inside of the movie space. People think like, oh, well, I know who Martian the Manhunter is, so everybody does. No,
you clearly don't, because you call the Martian the Manhunter.
Right. I don't know what I don't know what he is. Is it just Martian Manhunter?
It's Martian Manhunter.
Whatever. He could be. That's my point. Is that like they're now the comic book fans are going, oh, like, and they know. And like I had this conversation with a co-host who's like, oh, that's a household name character. It's like, no world is that a household name character because you know it because you're involved. To the comic book person who follows this stuff all the time, of course it is. In the same way that if you're in this community and you're following this and you're following all these names, the regular person on the street has no idea who Stephen Greer is.
Zero.
Now everybody knows who David Grush. Maybe, oh yeah, is this something that happened a couple of, oh yeah.
Not
there
even.
BS guy that I think I can't remember who it was, but Laszlo asked him. This is a high-ranking official, and I think it was lying, but he goes, do you know who, he's like, any word on David Grush? He's like, I don't know who that is. You don't know who David Grush is? You work in the freaking
that might be
top guys
here.
Yeah, you don't know who David Grush is. You've never heard the name. If that is the case, sir, you should be fired because you do terrible research. So clearly he was lying. But anyway, yes, mainstream media needs to cover all this stuff because it is part of that sheep mentality of like, oh, well, if my Channel 4 local news is covering it, it's gotta be real.
You only have capability to like store some certain amount of stuff in your mind at all times. Yeah. We all, if you're watching this, we all choose to pay attention to this regularly. There's nothing happening in the larger world in our faces day to day. You're on the way to the grocery store. There's not anymore. There's no more things hovering in the sky. And so, everybody else just like, okay, I guess I don't have to worry about that anymore. And we move on.
Right.
Same thing is happening with Epstein. That's why I said earlier in the show, when it comes to the UAP story, when the drones, it's on people to continue to focus and dive in and dissect and break down in between, in these lulls when nothing is really happening, because that's when a new door can open. Someone can uncover something new. But this is, to me, it's all, to go back to your first question, this is intentional, dude. This is intentional to get people to just like fall off. Because if you do the Trump strategy of like, nothing to see here, why are you still asking about this? Imagine if they did that with UFO and UAP, dude. Right. If that would be the biggest story. If you're still asking about drones?
Yeah, but they tried to do that for years. The internet has changed that. Like, because they keep trying to do that. They keep like Sean Kirkpatrick is the prime example when they just try to do it again with the Washington. Was it the Washington Post? Who did it? The New York Times.
Right. Where they just said the whole thing is
the New York Times combated that. It was I think it was the Post, right?
Yeah, I think it was Washington Post.
No, was it? I can't remember. Whoever it was, it was clearly there to serve one narrative. And I said, look, that whole thing that came out, that whole piece that was such a hit piece in general, and trying to highlight again Sean Kirkpatrick and the stuff that he did and proving that and this is why, going back to your point, and I made this once beforehand, but I haven't spoken it with you. That thing, when that came out, it was clearly on one perspective, right? Saying that this has been the government for a long time, just falsely saying it's UFO to make you look away from the technology that we are working on. That was the essence of what the article was about. And then they went into the whole that 1960s nuclear when the UFOs came in, and you had witnesses who said all these things, and they said, well, no, actually what they were seeing was electromagnetic stuff and all these things, and so there you go. To which, if they would have had, if it was good reporting, what you do inside of that is one of two things. We reached out to some of the people that were on set that day, or they were on site that day, and there was no comment. But that's not what happened. What happened was right afterwards, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but one of the main guys that was there said, well, no, I stand by that wasn't electromagnetic, and I can tell you why. And no one from that newspaper reached out to me as I would have given my point. Because if you're going to present that, you have to have both in order for me to take you serious. But what it did, as you made that point before, as far as the mainstream media stuff goes, some guy that I know, a friend of mine, was like, we were talking, and he's such like a, anti-UFO guy and thinks it's all Bigfoot and all that. He's like, so you see New York Times, or whatever. I keep saying New York Times, but you see, you see that they wrote it. It was the government the whole time. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but now you have to be the Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, I'm like, did you see? And I asked him, I said, did you see the follow-up? Did you see this? And then I think it was, again, the New York Times who had a great piece following that saying, I don't know what it is. It very well could be this, but what you didn't do was this. And then the back and forth of what a real report should be.
Right.
That's what it was. And then, of course, he didn't read that one. He just read the one that said, no, see? And they eat it up and they walk away.
They're done. They close the loop. The narrative has completed. They can move on to the next thing.
Right.
We talked about when we first started doing these streams together, dude. Yeah. We talked about what the ramifications for anybody involved with the technology, if they were given technology to be able to work on and unpack and all that kind of stuff, and how those companies or corporations or whatever would be liable for litigation from rival companies. Remember that we talked about all that?
Yeah.
And so I always thought that, and we discussed one time, like, one way out, although it would be crappy, but it would work for people who just read the article and go, you see, like, one way out would be to say, honestly, guys, it was us the whole time. We had come up with something that we didn't want to share because of national security, but this thing that just,
also, by the way, which is also very possible.
No, that's what I'm saying. So it could be a thing where you go, but this thing hovering over the White House is not us, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it could be that the reality is somewhere in the between. Like, I'm sure we are developing all that stuff. I'm sure that's a main reason why there's no disclosure, because then it would lead to everything else.
Yeah.
But you can just say we've been developing cool stuff because we don't know, and for whatever reason, we got the idea. And just ignore and deny the fact there was ever any contact or found recovered craft or whatever it is. They're going to have to do it at some point. There has to be a plan in like a little dossier. So if they land on the lawn, we say this, that kind of thing.
It's true. But I also wonder, because if you look, there's a couple of things that have been happening kind of leading up to this, where it was all this information coming out, all the, whether it's Matt Brown or other people who are talking about the legacy program, these reverse engineering stuff. And as the hearing gets closer, you hear the report. Again, Ross Coulthart recently said that he's hearing that there are people involved in this, senior officials telling people, if anyone is talking, they will be Gonski. It'll be like you will no longer be on this earth type of.
Who doubts that?
And no, right, but it also screams of they're getting closer. Here's how real we're taking this also, and then throwing the scent off as much as you can, because it leads to this.
How are you?
They postponed the date because we couldn't get people to testify, and we have another SCIF hearing because the same people that we wanted to get into a SCIF got SCIF flu. So we're now opening it up to them for when they're ready and available at their convenience to come testify as the SCIF. And then as soon as
no date on that yet.
Well, it's going to be at their convenience.
Yeah.
And then we'll also ask them as soon as they're ready on hold on, Bridget. As soon as we can get someone that's willing to testify, well, hey, Bridget!
Nice.
You bring my skateboard?
Yeah. Perfect.
That's Tulsi's.
But you said public hearings postponed until after
Yeah,
August?
we asked multiple people, and they weren't willing to testify.
Oh, really?
They said we either didn't want to be the only one, we were worried about, our safety, etc.
Huh.
So we're going to have the hearing, but we want to bring people with who have first-hand knowledge and/or direct evidence, not second or third-hand knowledge.
Huh.
But yeah, it's kind of frustrating because obviously we've been pushing hard for it, but it's like we open the skiff, they don't want to come testify. We have hearing dates, they don't want to come testify. So.
And you thought, the whole reason Arrow was created was to be a safe space.
I totally feel about Arrow.
Well, I know, but
I think Arrow should be cut. I think it's a joke. Yeah.
but is there any way to create an infrastructure where whistleblowers feel protected?
Oh, I think that it's going to be more on the legislation that we can push because there's still ways that people can be messed with, whether it's their clearances, depending on what.
All right, so there was a lot there. That was a great interview by Matt. So to me, this to me is the most deflating part of all of this. Everything we've talked about so far, because it just goes back to exactly what we just said, and it goes back to the Lukatsky thing. He said it. He said it before. He said, "Why would anyone testify? What do they have to benefit?" And even when you hear Burchett and all them, I mean not Burchett, Burleson, but in that first part when we started the show. It's like, yeah, we want everybody to testify. It's like, great, but what are you doing to protect them? And Nigel even says, what are you doing to protect them? It's like, well, we need legislation to pass in order. What incentive is it for them? Because not everybody, yes, as Burleson mentioned before, Grush lost a lot, but Grush also gained a lot. Grush got a lot of public sentiment. Grush got a lot. I mean, he's working with Joseph Kosinski, the director of F1 and Top Gun Maverick on a film. Mm-hmm. He got a job with the government again, so he's doing better. Lou is fine. I don't care. I mean, Lou looks like he works all the damn time. Is always doing something. He's always around the place. So he didn't seem to get. I mean, yes. I'm not taking away from anything that people got as far as harassment and all that. I'm talking about as far as career-wise and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen to everyone. You very well could be screwed. And especially if, they're like, well, we don't have a place for this person. Not everybody had the kind of credentials that David Grush had, right? And not everybody had the kind of reputation that David Grush had. So maybe you go up there and you're like, well, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose this. I have no way to be protected. I have people threatening me. I have this. I think we're in a vicious circle. I think we're just kind of, you know what I mean? I can't imagine what I think is going to happen. They're going to have a hearing, and I think they don't get anybody of note.
Nobody of note. It has to be the strategy will be to bore people to death.
Yep.
To make it as nothing to see here, but in the most boring way possible. The thing with Grush is that Grush was kind of a phenomenon for a minute, made his way onto Joe Rogan, right? And it broke the circle. It went past the little circle that we're all in paying attention to this stuff. And so I don't think anybody since him has had that. Right. Sure, Rogan's had on all the pilots talking about this, Fravor and all them, but it's weird to think I can't remember his name now. The guy who found the egg.
Oh, Barber. Jake Barber.
Barber hasn't been on Rogan, for example, and I use Rogan as a way to say I think if you get to that point where you're in the larger cultural awareness, you're a little safer because people are watching it,
right? And
then they have to fold you back in to regular civilian life or whatever it is. But if you're not Matt Brown hasn't made it. Matt Brown to me is so fascinating, dude.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he hasn't been on Rogan because of his relationship with Jeremy Corbell and Jeremy Corbell's relationship with Rogan, because they even had, what's that guy's name that we don't talk about anymore? Who was Jason, what was the guy's name? The one that, oh my God, the one that was on Rogan, and he was talking about having contact with the Gray. And he was also in the James Fox.
Oh, yes, with his buddy, the two guys together.
He was on, and he originally revealed himself on Twitter.
Jason Sands,
thank you. Where did he go?
That's what I'm saying. either some of these people are evidence of what that article was saying is like, hey, sadly, we created these stories to distract people. And then here are the, no disrespect, the useful idiots that were, co-opted by this whole thing. Or you have actual whistleblowers. It's hard to parse through it. And at some point you get to you're like, what am I doing? I don't even know. I can't even prove yes or no on this kind of stuff. Some people have credentials and you can bring those people in, like Fravor and all them. And some people are just so outlandish that it's like, what is the benefit? So my point in saying all this is that if you don't get to a point where the general public is like super interested, you get the Rogan seal of approval, they put you on the show, yada, yada. And it's a new thing that's being talked about. There's new information. There's something like that. Then there's no way to be protected. Like going out in public and being very public is a way to be protected. But at the same time, we have all the people who come out and are whistleblowers, and then they just,
it's true. Just fall to the wayside. But I think that, but there is even protected, right? Protected in what sense? Protected like physically, sure, but protected with their monetarily. I mean, that's the thing. You lose this kind of. I mean, what has happened?
Well, it's cynical because then you go the Lou Elizondo route and you write a book, and then people are like, oh, he's just trying to make money off of this, and I'm like, bro, maybe he lost his other opportunity to make money.
But you have to have a kind of spotlight on you in order to even do a book like that. Like Lou was, again, the New York Times article really focused on him. He was able to come on in the credentials that he had.
He's on TV.
He's on TV. So he had enough press of the things he was doing to promote it. A guy like Matt Brown's not gonna be able to write a book, like not right now. Grush could probably write now, but he doesn't seem like that's what he wants to do. He seems like Grush is the only one to me that seems like he's actually really trying to just get this stuff put out there. Now, the first thing people are going to say is, well, he's doing a movie. He's a consultant on a movie. But the question is, how much of what he really knows is he going to be actually able to put into this movie that could be beneficial in the way we were talking about it last 20 minutes ago, that if you're sitting there watching a movie and you're like, wait a minute, is this the guy that was consulting on this kind of stuff is actually going on?
Dude,
maybe
that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because I do think that is actually a way. If we go,
sneakily,
sure. If you go down the road of there's gonna, like, I always go back to the Soul Foundation timeline, and I feel like every once in a while it's good to go and check that thing out, because it does line up with a lot of stuff that's happening. But if you go back to that and you think about whatever disclosure is going to be, is not going to be like, my fellow Americans, here it is. It's going to be like a boiling frogs thing where we just kind of like gradually acclimate people. You would need to use Hollywood. You have to use the entertainment industry. Yeah. Maybe the guy who's been doing the most incredible UFO video movies for the last 3-4 decades, Steven Spielberg, which if you go back and watch his films, I'm sure everybody's seen them, but if you go back and watch them with all this context, it's crazy, dude.
Close Encounters, I'm sure, right?
It's crazy.
I have to go back and watch Close Encounters, because that's the one to me that I want to go back and revisit, because War of the Worlds, it's
no. Close Encounters has instances in that film that are what we talk about today as witness testimony, and it's like, dude, the guy was on it back then. And then what's his Blue Book,
Hynek.
Hynek. Yeah. Did you know that there was, I only learned this recently, there was a
pilots?
No, a press junket or whatever they're making of the movie vignette that they do when they're releasing a film, was Spielberg and Hynek being interviewed.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so it's like, do you not think that they would go back to him and say, hey, here's your next, and by the way, I'm not coming up with this. I was watching Area 52 the other day, and they were talking about what if this is the way you do disclosure, is like this movie that's coming out, you put a lot of stuff in there, and then you let the press around it be like, hey, this is something that might be happening.
Maybe. I mean, look, you got 3 of them, 4, including the documentary. You've got the Spielberg one, right, with a big cast. Got Emily Blunt in that one. Is it Emily Blunt and Wyatt Russell? Is that who's in that?
Wyatt Russell, yeah.
So then you've got the Kaczynski one, who's coming off of F1, and it's going to be an Apple movie, and he's working with David Grush. And I don't know who the cast is, if they even have a cast for that one yet, but it's Kaczynski. So it could, what if it's Brad Pitt? What if it's, it could be, what if it's Cruise? You know, it could be somebody of that nature. Kaczynski's hot right now. Right? Then you got this other one that Trevorrow is doing, which is the George Knapp discovery of Bob Lazar. You know, so that could be interesting. And that's
like we're getting the general public is going to have an opportunity to catch up with the foundational bits of this.
They learn more about,
everybody comes up to speed the way a lot more people did in 23 around Grush. Like you just got a whole new group. It makes it palatable. You can kind of like steer the narrative any way you want it, but you would hope that with the people in charge, it's going to be with the people's best interest in mind. And then at that point, you can have more nuanced conversations. People are kind of at a different baseline level.
Well, it's like the first it's in this space. It's like the first 3 music biopics.
Exactly.
Know? Right. And it's kind of like that. And then you've got the Age of Disclosure documentary that we still don't know.
Why isn't that out yet?
Now I have major questions about that. Now, why they can't get someone to distribute is crazy.
No.
But, and then Rogan was talking about how powerful it was, and he had seen it at South by. Here's my issue with that. You and I talk about this stuff. Well, I've been talking about it every day now. You know, we talk about it quite often. The news in this thing is changing.
I know it'll be outdated by the time it comes out.
It's so outdated. The thing was shot over a year and a half ago. Like the things that they did is like, it's not going to push anything forward past what we're talking about today.
Correct.
What it could do is is it another one of those documentaries that is going to, like, well, we're here to open up the eyes to the people who don't know about it. Okay, but you got to get them to watch it, because James Fox is a perfect example of that. His last documentary was not for the me and yous of this place to have seen. We knew all this stuff already. It was a very good documentary. It's great, but it was meant for the new person to discover it. The problem is no one discovered it, because you had to buy it again. Nobody picked it up.
I know.
You got to pick it up. You got to push it. And that's what this thing needs to do if they're going to get it. So I don't know where the hell this documentary is. It was like this big touted documentary, and it's just kind of lost in the shuffle, I guess.
This is, I think, the direction that some people feel like you have to go if you want to get back in the zeitgeist. Because again, like what we were talking about at the beginning of today's episode, is that zeitgeist window opens and you can feel forces trying to close it quickly, and then sometimes they are successful and sometimes they're not. You know, but the longer it goes on, the more they have to drop the hammer and say, hey, we're done. It's nothing. We're moving on. You know, and so I think you can't really do that around film. You could just, at best, you can go say, you're going to believe everything you see in a movie. But I just think if you're Spielberg now, unless he's going full fantasy, sci-fi, like just off the wall, which I don't think that's what it is. But unless it's that, you know, I think it's going to be hard to do that.
Yeah, I mean, from what it was originally rumored to be, is Disclosure is the name of it.
That's the name of the movie now,
right? Well, I don't know if it's officially that though.
Well, it changed from The Dish.
Yes.
So maybe that's the new working film. Now, here's something else that was brought up on another stream I was watching, and I'll say that I've heard of this phenomenon in the past, which is you create a piece of pop culture media, whatever it is, and you name it something that people are digging into, and then you make it impossible or very difficult. That's not saying impossible, very difficult to now go back and Google things like Disclosure, Men in Black. There's tons of stuff like that in politics where like you'll see suddenly like, you know, the Battle of Los Angeles, whatever. Now it's like you try to Google stuff and it's always conflating with it. So who knows? But
who knows? But you know, and this is more of I wonder type of a thing, but when you look at it, Spielberg's always been a big advocate of not disclosure, but believes he's very, very well read in the subject. He knows 100%. The terminology. He knows the players in the game. He knows it. He's just not as, when he's asked about it, he talks about it, but he's not like an open person talking about it all the time. But he's very much aware of it. He's also been a fan of. He was very big fan of Top Gun Maverick and everything. And I'm sure he's in the same circles as Kaczynski. And I wonder how much if he's met with Grush and Kaczynski, and clearly with the relationship that Trevorrow had with Jurassic World and how that plays together with Spielberg, who had produced it. I wonder if they're all kind of in cahoots with the message that they're trying to spread overall. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's just three people making separate movies, but I wonder.
I just hope that either he gets to put out the movie he really wants to put out, and if there is any tinkering, that he talks about it.
Spielberg?
Yes.
Spielberg is the one out of the three of those that gotta tinker. He's got that level now. You're not tinkering with
you
it.
Think that if he knows or has information about something from circles that he's in that's like really close to the truth.
He did it in Close Encounters when he was like 30 years old.
Well, no, but I think in that time, I feel like it's almost as if they were considering the disclosure cycle and they started, you know what I mean? But like in this case, I feel like
it'd be interesting to see. Either way, we'll see when those movies are coming out. But the last thing I wanted to bring up here today, we mentioned the drones. Well, check this out. The Air Force has now confirmed the drone swarms over Wright Patterson AFB led to airspace shutdown. Videos and reports have been released. Newly released Air Force records confirm that Wright Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio experienced multiple drone incursions in mid-December 2024, prompting the temporary shutdown of military airspace and a large-scale security response. The disclosure made through the Freedom of Information Act to the Black Vault includes incident reports, sworn witness statements, law enforcement documentation, and supporting video footage. All now public for the first time. The base, one of the most prominent and historically significant in the U.S. Air Force system, initiated emergency procedures on December 13th, 2024, after security forces reported observing several unmanned aerial systems operating in restricted airspace. Initial sightings occurred at 10:08 p.m. when patrols near the hot cargo pads spotted a drone hovering in the area and heading towards the west ramp of the installation. The object was described as black with 4 propellers, was roughly 6 inches in size, and had alternate red and green lights. It was later seen flying over fire station number 2 at about 20 feet off the ground. Another report stated that the 4 quadcopter drones with red and green lights in a tight diamond formation were spotted and then gained altitude and flew away at rapid speed once they shined their car spotlight system over the unidentified objects. Additional patrols responded, and one unit relayed to command that there were 3 additional UAS flying in a diamond formation. At 10:30 p.m., the air traffic controller tower issued a full shutdown of the airspace. Security teams conducted coordinated sweeps across both Area B and Area A, as well as the base perimeter, but were unable to identify any drone operators or recover physical debris. The response concluded at 10:40 p.m., but that was not the end of unusual aerial activity. Second separate wave of drone reports came in on December 16, 2024. At 9:38 p.m., a civilian walking his dog near the Airway Road and Harshman Avenue called in a report of multiple unmanned aerial vehicles flying near WPAFB. According to his account, the drones appeared to be over Area B and were slowly moving in different directions. So this was kind of going over like a lot of the same thing that we discussed. But there's a picture. I mean, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't really, again, it's not very clear. It just could be anything at that point, but as Mick West would say, it's a balloon. But I don't think that was a balloon. Obviously, it was a. The guy thinks everything's a balloon. The one overall. I mean, come on. I mean, I know some of these things are definitely balloons, but I mean, come on, the one in
that guy's my favorite to watch because it's like you watch him. And it's like a fun dystopian drinking game where it's like, they don't have any respect. For anybody.
It was the one in Iraq? It was Iraq, right? The one in Iraq that came out, that video, and the thing flies by and it's like, it's a birthday balloon in Iraq.
Yeah. No. And then he literally traces, dude, it's the funniest thing ever. It's so cynical. And he traces letters over. You see?
yeah, it's like he that guy. I can't with that guy. I can't. Like there's some things that he's not wrong about, and I think like yeah, of course that I don't believe that that's a thing either. I think people are just hoping, but there's sometimes it's like you can say I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's a UFO, but a balloon. Come on, man. Anyway, the drones are clearly not balloons. There's something else going on there, and much that they shut down the Air Force. Now, what we can say here is that you can't just jump. Again, going back to what we just talked about 3 seconds ago, you can't just jump and say these are alien craft. You can't do that. Because if you look at what Ross Coulthart had said recently about that, I think he said that China has already reverse engineered stuff. They have beaten us to the punch, and they had this type of technology. You sent me a video last week,
dude, I know,
about this drone that moves at this ridiculous speed that I couldn't even. I was like, that's AI, right?
It's supposedly not.
And supposedly it's not. But that's the other point.
I know.
Supposedly not. You don't know anymore. You can't tell anymore. I just saw 2 old men playing chess in the park telling dirty jokes, and it was not real. It was hilarious, but it wasn't real.
I'm ready to just go into the pod and feed me the Matrix steak at this point. Like I can't even tell.
And we're only a year and a half into what AI has really been doing. I'm telling you. It's a whole other conversation. The drones thing. It happened in 2024. It happened again. That red and green light thing, very similar to what they were seeing in Jersey, though.
Yes, and to me, like it's like there's a theme to today's episode.
Yeah,
which is, realizing, and I'm sure anybody watching this is already, but the point is realizing that loop, which is don't believe your lying eyes. Don't, we'll tell you what's real and what's not.
Right,
and then. Sometimes it's people that you trust and think they have credibility, and then you're like, well, why are they saying that? And like, it's like it breaks your ability to have a sense of who's legitimate and who's not. Sure. And so I really think people are going to have to continue to lean on going with their gut, building community that they trust, listening to folks that they trust, engaging with people that they trust, and because this crap is so offensive to me. This idea where you take a whole population of people. I mean. You had mentioned to me that did you tell me that you had seen stuff when in your part of town when it was all going on, the drone stuff?
I didn't see. I thought I saw when I was driving on the highway. I thought I saw particularly something, but not enough for me to say whether what was or wasn't. I have no idea.
Yeah, the point is there's enough like regular
my peripheral. I have no idea. Could have been a plane for my peripheral, but
fine. But the point is there's enough regular Joes out there, blue collar people saying like, hey,
yeah.
And the result, in my opinion, the result of going to people and say, you didn't see that over and over again I think it breaks people over time.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's why I think whether this is whether it's UFO, whether it's drone, whatever it is, if you treat people like that repeatedly, they become that. And then you get to a point where you can something could land in your driveway and probe you, and they'd say, no, it didn't. No, that didn't happen.
Right. And how do you trust anybody? And how do you trust anybody after that? Right. It's so true. And it's
that needs to be, in my opinion, that needs to, sorry to interrupt you. That needs to be like something where if people do that to you or someone, you need to publicly shame those people.
I know,
because that is behavior that to me creates a population of sheep or whatever you want to call it, but like just like yes sir, okay, yes ma'am.
It's a power bullying. What it is. That's exactly what it is. But whether or not we're gonna, the fact this is again repeating ourselves. That the drones situation, that this information comes out and we're reading it off of a website and it's not a major story, that one of the most powerful Air Force bases was shut down because these drones were flying over it. And it's like, no one's talking about that at all because there's other things to talk about for 45 minutes on just one particular topic. When you're like, well, this report came out, this is interesting. It's exhausting, but nonetheless, look, we did it. We did another episode. I hope people are excited because, like I said, I've gotten quite a few comments about when we were going to do another Down to Earth full episode, and I'm glad we were able to do it here today. So let's try to make it a habit.
Yeah, man, I love doing it. I love catching up with you. This is what we kind of geek out about, and I do think, I watch stuff. I watch the topic every day. And there are sometimes I find myself like just going, whatever. And then there's sometimes I'm yelling at the screen, like, bro, what?
Right.
And so I do like to come out here and talk about it with you, just because, specifically because I know people are watching and listening and engaging, and I have people send me amazing like feedback and responses about it. I'm like, cool, let's just keep it going. Like I've told you on day one, I think the best thing ever is that you do this, because you, in my opinion, you model the conversation and how to approach things like this, and you stick your neck out, like you have a whole nother career and a whole nother life on this public, and doing something like this, you didn't know if people are going to go, oh, Kristian lost his mind, he's wackadoo. Right. But it's the opposite. I think you've made a space for people to say, I want to talk about this. It's freaking weird. It's being a human on this planet involves me trying to figure out what the hell is happening around me. And I can't go anywhere to talk about it without there being a bunch of wackies. Right. So here, at least it feels very straightforward and very kitchen table, let's say.
I appreciate that. That's kind of what we've always been trying to do. And I think that for me, it's also why I don't really like go all day, every day thinking about it. I pay attention to news, see what's going on. I talk about it, and I move on with my day. I listen to the comments. I have conversations with people, and I move on with my day. Because I think if you get and I'm not taking away from anybody else who is doing this all of the time, I just couldn't do it. As far as there's people that they're like, my main channel is my name is Kristian Harloff, and I do the pop culture stuff, and I do everything else too. But there are other people who just, the main channel is their UAP stuff, and God bless them. Yeah, it's like for me, I've got to be able to take a break. I've got to be able I got to mentally be able to take a break and say, okay, let's dive into it. Let's talk about it. This is what I believe. This is what you guys believe. Now here's my life that I have to go back to. And again, I am not taking that away from anybody who puts the time and the effort and is really dedicated. God bless those people, because
I watch all of it.
Yeah, God bless them. They're the ones that are really diving in. I mean, look at Patrick. Look at
Patrick's awesome.
Look at Pavel. Pavel's
killing it. I love his channel.
35,000 subscribers on his channel. So like those guys are in it. They're in it. Like for me, and if everyone's like, oh, you're not as involved as those guys, you're 1,000%. There's 1,000%. I'm here to talk to you guys about it as if we were at a dinner table. And like, hey, you guys following? You hear that story? I probably know what happened. Oh, no. Okay, what's next on the agenda? Let's talk about dogs in the park.
Yeah, no, literally, like I said, it's like this version of the conversation is how you have to approach it, I think, with people who are not paying attention. Right. Because if not, it galvanizes people into corners.
Right. That's what I'm hoping that people get out of this. And either way, Peter, thanks for joining me. And where can they find you?
Well, I'll be at Comic-Con next week in San Diego.
Sweet.
Yeah, and funny enough, I think it was last year, they had a panel about Skinwalker Ranch. So I know there's people around that are interested in the topic and stuff. But I'll be at Comic-Con. Follow me at Attack Peter on Instagram, and we'll be talking everything that I'm doing out there. A lot of cool stuff. I can't talk about all of it. Some really cool surprises. I'm hosting a panel for Jason Voorhees, the Jason Universe. So if you guys want to look into that and come check it out, it'll be fun. But yeah, I'll be there saying hi to everybody.
Check them out, guys. If you're going to be in San Diego, go to Comic-Con and do so. All right. Thanks for being here, guys. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Make sure you check us out. I'm so glad we were able to do this today. Again, this is a longer episode that we haven't done in a little bit. Hopefully we can do it again. Put your comments in there. Put your thoughts in there. And we'll see you on the flip side.